So I want to talk a little bit about good old RV maintenance. One issue I knew we were going to have to deal with was our Toyo M655 tires on the front of our Ford F450. We didn't have any issues with the tires in the back. They wore evenly, but the ones in the front definitely cupped even though we rotated them. So we ended up switching to Michelin Agilis HDZ tires, and so far those have worn very, very well, very smoothly. So I think they were too aggressive. The Toyo tires were just too aggressive for the front, but we still like having the aggressive ones on the rear for the traction. And then the next issue that I discovered was our slide-out floors. The three lower slide-out floors in our Dutchmen Voltage Triton 4271 had all started rotting from water damage, water intrusion. And the reason is that Darco fabric that they use to wrap around these boards is just not watertight. When it starts getting worn, the water will wick right through that fabric as it comes down and around and underneath the slide. So I opened them up and dried them out and added some hardener and then sealed them back up and tried to seal it with Gorilla Tape. But that's not a great solution because they can't handle the wear across the wear bar. They're just not strong enough. The only real right way to handle this is with slide skis. And as I discovered, on some of the heavy slides, you also need rollers to help support the weight because some of the slide skis are a little weak when they're under a lot of pressure. So ultimately, that's what we ended up doing, was installing slide skis and rollers. Now, I was aware of this potential issue, and I actually put silicone around the edges to try to keep the water from going through into the floor a couple years ago, but that still didn't ultimately keep the water out. And then we pressure washed the roof because it was sorely in need of it. And then the real biggie, I noticed a crack in our fiberglass next to one of our slide outs in the front, the bedroom closet slide out. That is often indicative of a frame flex issue where your frame is flexing more than it should be. So I reached out to the dealer since we had like 6 days left on our 3-year structural warranty from Keystone Dutchmen, just in case it became an issue. I wasn't too concerned about the crack, but it obviously was if it was a true excessive frame flex issue. So Heather and I started by measuring the distance the pin box moves up into the rig when you hitch.
I mean, I don't know that that's abnormal. It moved, but
Lippert, of course, is the manufacturer of these frames, and the dealer asked us to perform the Lippert measurement to measure the upper deck flex, which is where you measure from the pin box to the landing gear, and then you compare that measurement with when it's hitched versus unhitched. So that's measuring the flex in the front of the frame. And in our case, it was only 1/4 of an inch, so that is well within normal. If yours is over 1/2 inch, some people have as bad as 1.5 inches or worse. That can be indicative of, a frame failure issue where you have a crack or a broken weld or something like that that needs further investigation. But nevertheless, we still have the crack in the wall, which is indicative of probably a broken weld in the studs that are within the wall, the aluminum studs. So even though we didn't have a major frame issue, we did have a crack in the wall. So after I got all this information back to our dealer in Nappanee, Indiana, Showalter RV, I heard back from them actually within a few hours. I had also mentioned that that the floors on the slide outs, the 3 slide outs, were damaged due to water intrusion. I just kind of mentioned that in passing, and that I had added hardener and did the best I could to get that taken care of without replacing the floors, which is a rather big job. And to my shock, they replied within a few hours and said not only did they have the wall repair and replacement approved under warranty, they also had gotten approved the replacement of all 3 slide-out floors under warranty. Now, remember, we had about 6 days left on our structural warranty from Keystone Dutchmen. So I am blown away by the fact that Showalter RV and Keystone stood behind this unit so well that they took care of not only the crack in the wall, but the floors that I didn't even ask them to take care of. That was extremely impressive and a total 180 versus some of the experiences that I've heard about frame flex issues from owners of like Grand Design. Grand Design was fighting them left and right and blaming the owners and refused to stand behind it. And Keystone absolutely stood behind it. So kudos to them and to Dutchmen. Super impressed. So off to Nappanee, Indiana we went. Amazingly, Showalter was able to get us in within the same week that we reported this. And they needed our RV for 2 weeks to perform the repairs. So we made that happen. They did a great job with everything, and I would highly recommend Showalter RV. They repaired the wall and dramatically beefed it up, adding plates, as you can see, welded it in and epoxied it. And ultimately didn't find any issues with the frame, but they still went ahead and added more welds to just beef it up, beef up the gussets that were in there. And they also did a great job with all three of our slide outs, replacing the slide out floors. That is obviously a big job, but a lot easier when you can, remove the slides on a fork truck. One of the floors had a bit more damage than I could see from the bottom, once they took it off. So it's a good thing they're replaced. And then had them, they added slide skis and also ABS plastic. We paid a little extra for that to get the ABS put on the bottom of it. But that way, that'll help support the rollers. And that combined with the slide skis will also keep water from getting in there in the future. I want to give a special shout out to Michelle, the service and parts director at Showalter RV. She did an excellent job, Johnny on the spot with regard to communication, which is extremely important in a situation like this. And also to our tech, Jody, who did a lot of this work and went above and beyond. And I even noticed a couple of smaller things that he had fixed that he had noticed, like with the shelf, for example, above our fridge that didn't have the greatest support from the factory the way it was designed. He saw that I had put some screws in there, so he put some supports underneath it to help it even further. So that kind of initiative is rare today and very much appreciated. And thanks again to Showalter for letting us stay there overnight when we picked it up. It helped us to break up the drive so that instead it was a 12-hour round trip, we were able to do 6 hours up and then stay overnight and then 6 hours back, which made it a bit more bearable. And Hunter's Hideaway there in Nappanee is a great place to eat. Man, that garlic burger was awesome. As always, thanks for watching.